Host Alastair McDermott. And today my guest is Salma Jafri. Salma, I hope I got that name right because I did not do the proper thing of asking you pronunciation beforehand.
You nailed it, Alastair. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Salma, I'm delighted to have you here to talk about YouTube because it's something I need to work on. And I think that some of the people listening to this who are experts and want to build their authority and personal brand are looking at YouTube as well. So I think that maybe they'd be interested in this as well. So you are a YouTube master, and in fact you're certified, and you teach people strategies, tactics, all of the stuff to grow a personal brand on YouTube. Can you tell me a little bit about what's truly important when you're starting out and you're thinking
Wow.
about this?
I think something that's very underrated, but really, really important for like building your credibility on YouTube is to nail your audience. Like really, really get down to the nitty gritty of who your ideal audience is. So we call them like IAC, ideal audience, client, or ideal audience avatar, or whatever you want to call it. But really, really get down to the basics of talking to one person, solving a problem for that one person, and then having like a very clear strategy of why you're talking to them and what do they need, where are they at, what are their pain points, what are their triggers, what will they relate to the most. I think if you can nail that part, everything else sort of flows from there and gets like really, really almost intuitive.
One of the things that I struggle with a little bit sometimes is when I'm looking at the really popular YouTube channels and I'm trying to
Yeah.
learn from what they're doing, is that a lot of those are entertainment focused and they're kind of
Mm,
they're aimed at this consumer audience, and it doesn't really translate so well over to business education type content. Can you tell me a little bit
absolutely.
about how you
Mm.
think about that? Because I find that really difficult to learn from those.
Well, we should have a conversation about this because this is something I can talk about all day, every day, 24/7, because this is exactly the pit I fell into. And I'm sure, like, when you look at YouTube as well, anybody looks at, they're all the Mr. Beasts and the Peter McKinnons and the Casey Neistats and all the influencers and Emma Chamberlains out there. And you're like, wow, you need like three camera angles, tons of B roll, fast editing, lots of cuts, lots of jump cuts, as we call them in the industry, um, and like a fancy studio and production setup and all of that. And that's true. That's all what you are going to need if your aim is to be a full-time creator, which is not the aim of my audience and the aim of most business YouTube creators. I think where we blur the lines is where we think we need to match the level of energy, intensity, resources, time with full time content creators. But if you're a business owner, that is not how you should be thinking. As business owners, we do not need to think of ourselves as full time content creators. We need to think of ourselves as online business owners first and leverage YouTube for its credibility, for its authority, for its lead gen, for its visibility, right? And so that requires a whole different strategy than the entertainment people out there. So when you look at the business people who are leveraging YouTube to get leads, to get sales, to get clients, to build their authority, to build their personal brands, that requires a much more targeted and strategic and intentional approach versus just fancy productions and all the time producing content. It requires more thought. It requires more problem solving content so that people actually see that you can solve their problem. And then it requires conversion content. Where did they go for the next step? What do they do after they've watched your free YouTube video? Like, they need help. They need to know, how can I implement this? So you need to make sure that your videos within the videos itself are structured really well, but then your channel is structured in a way that it guides people through the process of wanting to work with you, hire you, buy from you, and just have that level of, that next level of working with you in some capacity. So I think for that, you don't need the fancy stuff, but you do need the basic stuff. And there's a huge big difference. So the basic stuff is your strategy, knowing who your audience is, knowing what their problems are, and then showing up as the expert to solve that.
Showing up as the expert to solve it and problem solving. Are you talking about creating a lot of how to content? Is that the
No,
type of content that we should be doing?
Well, I would say yes to that if this was 2016. But YouTube has changed a lot, and how to content is, it's still, you might still think of it as how to content, but how you package it is really very different now. So the reason why I say the difference between 2016 and now is because we used to be able to rank YouTube videos. Like, I have videos where I could rank them in like 16 minutes, because of keyword strategy and exact match searches and all that kind of stuff. YouTube used to be really, really easy to rank videos on because of SEO. But nowadays, emotional content takes a priority over search engine optimized content. So when you're thinking of how to content, you also need to be thinking of relating to the human viewer, not just ranking in search. So when you think about creating a video, let's say how to make a YouTube video with your phone, right? So that's the how to content. But then you really need to get into the emotional triggers of your audience. What is their problem really? Maybe they don't have, a fancy setup, or the only camera they have is their phone. So you need to kind of build that emotional arc into both the title and the thumbnail, and then obviously the content itself. So it's no longer just how to, but it's how to plus emotional triggers. So that really is now the key to kind of getting that click, and getting people to look at the video and say, yes, this video looks like it's going to solve my problem. But also just going beyond just the how to, and really tapping into the emotions that people are feeling in that moment of why they'd want to click on watch this particular video. So that's the difference.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting, and I think that we're going to need to dig into that a little bit more. So I have a fairly basic but solid understanding of the YouTube basics. So the first thing, we're going to need to have a really great thumbnail and a really great title that encourage people to click, because the hardest part is to get people to click to start watching your video.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you get people watching your video, then you've got to try and retain them. You got to keep them watching the video. So you got to have, like what we did today. We did a fairly short intro, and it's something I've always done on my podcast, because I always hated
Yeah.
those really long backstory introductions where
No.
you've got
Yeah, we're
15
done with
minutes of
those.
backstory. So when you watch any YouTube video on a really popular channel, like they don't have a big intro segment with with titles and all of the music and all that kind of stuff. They get into it. So those are like, that's kind of like the table stakes. Those are the basics you absolutely have to have. But then, so I as a I come from an engineering background. It's very easy for me to create a how-to type content, and most of the people who are watching or listening to this are experts in their field, and so
Mhm, mhm.
how-to is that's their bread and butter. They can do how-to stuff all day, but actually bringing the emotional part into it and figuring out the emotional triggers, that part is that's where it starts to get a bit
Yeah.
messy. Can you dig into like what that actually looks like if we were creating a how to, and let's pick something, let's pick something a little bit technical but not crazy technical. Let's say somebody wants to write a book and put it up on Kindle on KDP, which is fairly easy, but there are some technical parts to that. Can you talk to me a little bit about, if we use that as an example, what that might look like?
Okay, before I get into the example though, I just want to say one thing. When you said about the titles and thumbnails being really important, I want to add one more thing to that. I call it my 3T framework. So it's 3 T's, and it starts with topic, title, and thumbnail. All those three things combined together is really the packaging of your YouTube video by which you win the click. So your topic is very, very important, and how you choose your topic is crucial, and then how you title it, and then how you thumbnail it. So all three work together. So with that said, let me give you an example first from one of my clients, thinking about titles. So when I think about titles, and adding that emotional arc into titles while being a how-to title, I think about I'll give you the title first, and then I'll show you the framework behind that. Okay, so one of my clients did this. I think about a year ago, maybe it was 10 months ago or so, where she has a channel for women talking about gray hair. And so she could have done a video called "How to Go Gray" or "How to Embrace Your Gray Hair" or whatever. But the emotional side of it added in made that title "How to Go Gray Without Looking Old." So do you see the difference between how to have gray hair versus how to go gray without looking old. So the fear is that if I have a lot of gray hair, people are going to perceive me as being maybe 10 years older than I actually am. So people don't want to look old, which brings me to my framework. It's called the GCFA framework. And it's what you do is you write down goals, that's the G, challenges, that's the C, F, that's the fears, and A, that's the aspirations. Once you nail these four things down, goals, challenges, fears, aspirations, you can come up with titles that talk about the goal, which is, go gray or publish a Kindle book, without the challenge. So what is the challenge that your audience might be facing? Maybe they haven't ever published before, so maybe they're a first time publisher. So how to publish your first Kindle book, that could be a differentiating factor. Maybe tech is challenging for them, so maybe the title could be how to publish your first Kindle book even if you are not tech savvy. So whatever that challenge is, and your audience best, so you have to figure out what their challenge is, and then incorporating the fears and aspirations as visuals in the thumbnail. So that's kind of the framework that I use to add both keywords as well as emotional triggers into your titles and thumbnails. Let me know if that made sense.
Yeah, it does. I love it. So if so, what you're doing there is, I guess that the fear is the looking old. The aspiration is to look younger or not look old. So it's kind of the inverse of that.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a challenge or not. So I don't know if it's possible to fit all of those goals, challenges, fears, and aspirations into one single, but you can probably pack.
You probably want to choose two for the
Yeah,
title and two for or one for the thumbnail. So for thumbnails, I either go with fear-based thumbnails or aspirational thumbnails because those are the kind that work best. People either want to avoid pain or reach a goal.
right.
And if you're confused between which one, always choose the fear based one. It always works better because avoiding pain is a greater motivator than reaching a goal.
Yeah.
So, it depends on your topic,
Yeah.
obviously.
And
But
and as somebody who's been working in marketing for a very long time, this kind of irritates me, that the way that the human brain works. I guess it's something that goes back to, safety and security, and
it's
the like
primal.
it's very
Yes,
primal, but we're much more motivated by fear,
we are.
and that's why.
Unfortunately, that is true.
So, and that's why marketing, so much of it is fear based.
Yes.
But that's what motivates people. And so, yeah, it's kind of irritating on one level, but it's what you have to do. Okay, so we have an idea of the goals, the challenges, the fears, the aspirations. We're creating the title and the thumbnail. Let's go back to the first T, the topic. And can you tell me a little bit about how you think about that? Because like is because in the example that I gave of, let's say, somebody trying to publish a book or booklet on Kindle, the topic itself, can you tell me how you would think about breaking that down as to figure out, is this a good topic to cover, or should we be taking a different angle, or something like that? How do you think about that?
Well, what I'm thinking about if this is a good topic to cover or not, there are a few variables that go into it. Number one, am I an expert in this? Can I get on stage tomorrow, right now, like with, just a day's notice perhaps, and go up and talk about this topic to an audience? So that's kind of really, I start from there because I don't want people to get overwhelmed with a lot of research because then they don't sound very authentic. So it has to come from something that you actually know a lot about. So that's the first criteria for choosing a good topic. The second criteria really is about differentiating yourself in the marketplace. So, pretty much every topic you're going to think about nowadays is going to be like, oh, it's so saturated, there's so much competition. And on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of times my clients say, well, there's nobody doing this or there's nobody talking about this. And I think they're thinking about competition all wrong. Competition is just the people who are showing up for the problems that your audience has. So if people are showing up for that particular problem, then that's your competition. That's how you have to think about competition. So you have to really figure out, how are you going to differentiate? Like, what is going to be the unique perspective that you're going to have? And that's where branding comes into place. That's where, your personal brand, your personality, how you talk about things, how you explain things, how you think about things, your unique perspective, your unique insights, your experience, maybe your work experience, maybe you've worked with clients before, you've had personal success with that topic before. You want to bring all of that into how you present a topic. And then the third thing that I think kind of helps you figure out if this is a good topic or not is search volume. So I look at search volume with regards to, okay, is there demand for this? And is that demand trending up or down, or is it stable? So stable demand, typically for me, it means like stable topics. That means I'm going to probably get evergreen views on this. um, Decreasing trending views probably means it was a fad or something that's just going out of popularity, and I'm probably going to get fewer and fewer views on this if I create a video on this. And obviously, if the topic is trending up, then that is potential for growth. So you always want to either choose stable evergreen or trending up. So those are the three criterias for, is this a good topic or not?
Yeah, and that's something like I think that a lot of people. So the way I think about this is as an expert is stay in your lane, and I know that that phrase tends to have some emotional connotations as well. But I think that for
Yeah.
experts, it's a good rule of thumb for what we talk about, and so that's the way I personally think about that, and everything that I talk about is typically something I could give a talk on, and I think that most people listening to this are expert enough in their field that they could give a talk on any one of the topics that's in their subject area. So I think that the expertise part, I think most people listening to this will have that covered, and then it's just figuring out. You talked about keywords and search volume and things like that. What kind of tools do you use for that? Are there specific tools for YouTube, or are they kind of more general search engine tools?
They're both. So the specific tool I use for YouTube is TubeBuddy, and then the more generic tool I use is Keywords Everywhere. Um, but I think my like I have a SEO background, so I'm like talking a lot about that, and I have a content marketing background, so I talk a lot about organic growth. But to address your point about being in your lane, I think it's, yes, it's being in your lane, but it's also showing your personality. And I think that's the part that most people miss about YouTube, putting the you in YouTube, putting yourself. It's not just the topic. When I get on sales calls, one of the first questions I ask people before I decide to work with them is, why me? And the answers are almost always, I like your style, I like how you explain things. I've heard the same thing from other YouTube educators, but when you explained it, it made sense to me. So I think this is the part that a lot of experts, myself included, was not building upon as much your personality. That's the missing ingredient. On YouTube, it's not just the topic, it's not just the fact that you're an expert, but it is how you come across on camera, how you showcase your personality. And that could mean, like, if you're a mom talking about, maybe the home work environment with kids and how challenging that might be. Or if you're somebody like me who just moved countries and migrated to this gorgeous island that I live on now, maybe including that in my backdrop and doing outdoor shoots and bringing a little bit of my lifestyle into the videos. And so it's really about showcasing just a little bit more than just the topic. It's what are the things that are important to you. Maybe you have pets that are really important to you. Maybe include them in your videos. So it's just that putting that little bit of you into it that makes all the difference between why somebody would follow you versus all the other experts out there.
Well, I have two very cute kittens here that I could bring in on video, but I'm not going to do that. I think I would be,
Listen, YouTube and cats go together. So, Alastair,
yeah,
this take this as a challenge. Figure out how to
yeah,
get your cats on camera.
yeah. Well, I think they like to come in and destroy the office while I'm in here. So, in terms of personality, I think that some people who are listening or watching this might be thinking, oh, I don't know if I have the personality for that. Like, how can you tell if you have the personality to go on YouTube and do stuff like this?
You can't. That's the troubling part, right? Because you're looking at all the other people and you're like, oh, they can dance, they can, be comedic, they can tell great stories, but I can't. I'm just a normal, boring person. But you're not. You're probably very different when you're in a group of friends. You are probably very different, in a different social environment with people you're actually comfortable with. You're probably very different with your partner, or with your kids, or with your best friend, or with your office colleagues, or with relatives. You have all these different sides of your personality. You just have to figure out which one is going to be the one that you're going to showcase on video. That's the challenge.
That's a great answer, and like I know this is something that I wasn't very comfortable the first time I got in video, and
Yeah.
I've done 140 episodes of the Recognized Authority at this point, and I've done countless other podcasts, my own and others. So I've probably been on camera between live streams and everything, maybe 600-700 times, maybe more, and so I'm really used to this now. One of the things that I found that works for me is I just try and be me, and not trying to put on any kind of act, not trying to look anything like we wear certain masks in different environments, in different
Hmm.
groups,
Hmm.
and I think if
We
you can
do.
unmask yourself and just be the real true you, and that authenticity will come across, and I think that that's really crucial for me, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this, and I think it's something that I see with
Yeah.
the people who I talk to is
I
they
think
are
there's
they
a
are them on camera.
misconception also that, sorry, I kind of cut you a little bit there, but just I want to actually add to something that you were saying. Um, when we feel like we're being boring, or and this is a comment that I often get on my YouTube channel, that you were explained it slowly, you took your time, and I appreciate that. So it really depends on the kind of audience that you want to attract, you know but obviously your personality and the way you explain things or the way you talk about things is going to attract a certain audience. For me, I'm very happy attracting an older audience. I'm totally happy with attracting a much older audience than some of the other YouTube educators do. So that works for me. It works for my slower style. It works for my delivery. It works for, I take my time. I think through things. I talk a little bit slower than some of the fast talking Americans, in my area. But yeah, it really is all about not undervaluing what you're good at. And if you've done like 600, 700, did you say 600, 700 episodes? What have
Between
you? Let me turn the tables on you and ask you a question here. So,
Sure.
what do you think? What part of your personality do you think comes across on video? What do people say they like about watching you on video? Have you received any comments on that yet?
Well, this might be damning with faint praise, but I've been told that I seem like a nice guy. And
Yeah,
I really do wonder about that one. But yeah, I think people like the way that I ask questions, and that I dig into topics, and that I ask follow ups. And if
yeah,
you see me looking down and to the side, I have notes down here. I take notes during every interview, and I have pages and pages of notes. And so I wrote down, for example, for what we were talking about earlier: goals, challenges, fears, aspirations, problem solving, emotional content. So I wrote down all of those keywords
yeah,
that we talked about, and
yeah.
so I
And I have a
revisit
download on
those.
that, by the way, if you want all of that in a nicely packaged little resource guide, which we can give at the end, both to
Cool.
our viewers and whoever, and you can use it as well.
Yeah, awesome. And in fact, I really like your website for the YouTube playbook. That it's the number one thing that you can do on your homepage.
Yeah,
So
although there's a lot on that website I need to fix, but yeah, I'll take that win.
but yeah, so I think the authenticity thing I think is pretty important, and there's part of that I think that just comes through time, and doing repetitions, doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because when you do something over and over again, you get more comfortable. And like the two of us, I think, are not looking at each other on screen. We're both looking at the camera, and that only comes from
Except when I'm looking here, then I'm
yeah,
looking at you.
yeah, exactly. But like you train yourself into these things over
You
time,
do.
and doing it.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point because it is really hard at
Yeah.
times. I mean, and when you're first starting out, you're like, how can I talk to an inanimate object with energy? It's like, how do you do that? But I find that as an introvert, this is perfect for me. Like talking to the camera, and even like being up on stage and talking to an audience, I kind of relate that to my introversion energy, because I don't need to make small talk. I don't need to wait for the other person to answer. I don't, need to, I can have a conversation later in the comments. So if you're an introvert or you feel like you are a little bit camera shy, actually video is perfect for you because there's nobody judging you in the moment, really. Well, unless you're doing a live stream. But if you're doing recorded videos, it's like you say your piece, do your thing and get comfortable. Be stupid if you need to, be amazing or whatever you need to be, and just get it out there. And then you can decide, okay, it's there for better or for worse. This is who I am. I'm just going to put it out there. That takes courage. Hit publish. And then lots of good things happen after that. Usually, lots of good things happen once you get that courage. So, yeah.
I have some kind of bigger picture questions about channels rather than just
Sure.
videos, and I know that in the world of YouTube, like the algorithms change all the time, and what's good advice this week mightn't be good advice next week. But my understanding now is that you can have a channel with very few videos on it that gets a lot of views. So you get a lot of views on a small number of videos. You don't have to have a video every single day or every single week. Is that the case?
Well, I mean, look at my channel as an example. I've been doing a lot of live streams lately, but I haven't published a recorded video in about 5 months, I think. And to be very honest, I'm making way more money right now, even though I intend to get back into publishing, but it's all about priorities. So, what I'm recommending now with the new algorithm changes and with all of that happening is if you can have a quarterly schedule. And as business owners, I know we're all really short on time, and we really want to get as much done in the time we have available. So this strategy really works if you are short on time and you want to prioritize video production without having a video out every week. So, what you do instead of thinking on a weekly schedule, think in terms of quarters. So, every 3 months, think about what are your big goals and objectives. Let's say I have a specific product I want to sell during that particular 3 month period, or a coaching program, or a digital download, or whatever it might be, right? What you want to do is reverse engineer what kind of content you want to make that will drive people to sign up for your lead magnet that can then get them to buy that particular product. And think about making a series of videos. It could be anywhere between 5 to 10 videos. And then your focus becomes creating those 5 or 10 videos or anywhere in between that, and using that 3 month period to publish those videos. So you batch create them, batch write them, batch record them. If you can do that, that would be really great. Save you a ton of time. And it would be bingeable because it's a series. Every video links out to the next video. So you get a lot more watch time. And also you build trust really fast because if people watch one video and then log out of your channel, that's not building trust. But if they watch one video and then another and another, and they watch 3, 5, 10 videos in one sitting, A, the algorithm loves that. And B, you build trust a lot faster and they're more likely to take the next step with you. So I find that thinking in terms of quarterly objectives, creating bingeable series videos is a really good strategy for business owners to build authority really fast and get out of the content mill of weekly production.
And let me ask you then about channel strategy overall, because I have a channel where I have done shorts, I have done live streams, and then I've done pre-packaged produced videos, and not produced, not highly edited, just a lot of talking heads and maybe a little bit of b-roll, but not a whole lot. So I have a channel here that's been around for a long time, has quite a few videos on it, but very, very few views. Should I look at starting again from scratch on a new channel for some of this, or can I take my existing channel and use that? How do you think about that?
You can take your existing channel if it's got the same audience that you want to build on even more. So the only time I suggest a new channel is when it's a different audience. But if it's the same audience, then you can absolutely use an existing channel. Um, However, if you feel like you're creating a lot of content but not getting enough traction, not growing as fast as you want to grow, and you're like thinking, oh, what kind of content should I be creating? There's shorts, and then there's long form, and then there's lives. I'm actually going to go a little bit against the popular opinion, and I'm going to say don't do shorts if your objective is to build authority. I'm going to go the other way and say if your objective is to build authority, do targeted live streams. Not interviews necessarily, but teaching live streams where you are getting your people to come on board and engaging and figuring out what their issues are and helping them get to the next step. So it is really a deeper form of engagement. And that's what you're looking for to build authority fast. And that's also, ironically, going to grow your numbers because the more people are engaged with you, the more you'll have those loyal people coming back to view your videos. When the algorithm sees that a lot of returning subscribers are coming back, it's then going to start to show your videos to a larger audience base, to newer people. So it works in reverse. It you have to think about it from the perspective of, okay, how can I go deeper? And if you go deeper, you will then go wider.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that for me personally, I think that that's a good idea, and like I'm quite comfortable going live, and it's something that I do regularly. So that's probably going to be my next step with the YouTube channel, is to do more of that. But again, even with the live streams, I'm sure that I still need to bring in the things that you talked about earlier, the goals, challenges, fears, aspirations into the packaging for the live stream, right?
Not as much because live streams have a slightly different marketing strategy. And for live streams, what's really, really important is to choose the right topic. And for that, you want to just poll your audience, right? Literally just, give them three topics and ask them to choose which one would they show up for if you were to do a live stream on that next week. And then you just go with that, and then the rest of your topics are going to come from the live stream itself, because as you enable live chat and you have conversations, you are going to go deeper and deeper into what are people actually really struggling with. Is it, like, for you it might be, what are they really struggling with in terms of building their authority? Maybe they feel imposter syndrome, or maybe they feel, how can they stand out from other people in their industry who are already very established, or whatever their fears are. You go deeper and deeper into those, and then that guides you to what the next live stream topic could be about. That, oh, next week let's go deeper into this particular thing. And then the packaging for the live streams is not as necessary because you're really focused on engagement rather than just getting mass viewership. That's the purpose of a live stream, is really engagement. You just want to have a two-way conversation, which you don't do in recorded videos. In recorded videos, it's very one way, right? You speak, you're the expert, you give your advice, and then it's bye. But in live streams, you're more accessible. And so I feel like that's a very, very good format for building authority really fast. Most people would say do more YouTube shorts, but that's a good strategy for building short-term visibility, but
Hmm.
it's not a good strategy for building your authority, because people watch shorts, like 100 shorts in one sitting, scrolling up, 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 and then they forget all about you. Whereas if they're engaged, think about retention. Like a podcast, live streams give more retention. The longer somebody is engaged with you on a live stream, the more into you they are, the more into your content they are, the deeper you go with them, the more engaged they are. And that makes them a better quality viewer. So that's just my view on that.
Really interesting. And I realize, and we spoke about this a little bit at the start of this as well, because
Yeah.
we talked about, like, live streaming is hard. There's
Yeah.
like you're live, so there's the pressure of being live. There's the technology challenges. There's the
For sure.
multitasking. And one of the things that I was doing on this live stream was take myself out of the picture and highlighting you, and just doing that while you're doing it, and things like that you've got so many different aspects to it. But I
You got to be
think,
like a DJ almost, like
yeah,
mixing, matching, and
but
there's
if
the
you
software. Oh my God, it's a lot of buttons.
if you're willing to do that, though, then I think that it's fun. Like, the reason why I started live streaming to record my podcast episodes was very simple. I
Yeah.
wanted to stop procrastinating about not using video, because what I found was,
Mm.
when I pre-recorded my interviews, I was audio only, I would do the edit. But for video, the editing was very expensive, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to put it up without editing. And
Yeah.
then I was procrastinating about it, and I said, okay, well, if I just hit go live, there's no take backs, and so
That's a really good reason to do live, but I'm gonna
yeah.
challenge you to go one step further. And apart from the interviews, because I feel like interviews are still very safe because you don't have to do all the talking, right? So I would say do live streams just on your own, to engage with your audience. Like if you change the, like, still do the interviews and the podcasts and all of that, because obviously that's something that is also really really authority building and good to watch, but also just do live streams to engage more with the audience, so just you and your audience. Just, and it doesn't need to be very complicated in the beginning. Yes, we can use all the live streaming softwares and push buttons and all of that, but honestly, when I started, it was just, I think it was native on the YouTube platform, just me hit live on the YouTube platform and just talk to my audience. Just cut out all the middlemen and software and everything. Because if that's the problem, then, if you're using tech as an excuse, then just cut that out. Just
Yeah.
don't use that. You can build up to that. You can build up to all the stream decks and fancy Elgato decks and all of that stuff. But you don't need to start from that. You have to start with connection. What
Yeah.
is going to build that connection with your audience? And even if two people show up, I remember there was a live stream I did once on Facebook. Nobody showed up, and I still went ahead, and I had this little 5-10 minute thing that I wanted to talk about. So I just talked about it even though nobody showed up. And that might be your reality in the first few episodes. So learn to clap for yourself, have something prepared, and just do it. And there is no shame in, no audience in the beginning, because that's how we all start. All of us start this way. So I think it's just, you just need to get over that awkwardness and just be comfortable with I might sound like a crazy person saying this, but get comfortable talking to yourself alone on camera.
I don't think that's crazy, but then I've been doing this for a while. So yeah, I do think though there is a huge benefit in just doing it over and over and over again. Because the
Absolutely.
more you do it, the better you'll get. And Mr. Beast talks about this. Like he made thousands of videos.
Yeah.
So, and if anybody doesn't know Mr. Beast, he's a multi millionaire, probably a billionaire at this point from YouTube. But he gives away Ferraris and hundreds of thousands of dollars on his YouTube videos. He is somebody who knows YouTube very well because he studied it for years and he made thousands of videos and experimented. And I'm not saying that you need to go and make thousands of videos, but certainly you will need to put in the reps, is the way I think of it. You have to put in some work to get to understand how the channel works, how cameras work, how all of the different bits fit together. You just need to start, and
And you know something else, Alistair? It doesn't even need to be on YouTube to start with. Like when I started going live, it was actually on this defunct platform now. It was Periscope. And this was what, 2017, 2016, 2017, something like that. You could start with Instagram if that's easier. You could start with Facebook if that's easier. You could start with LinkedIn, wherever you feel more comfortable. The idea is to get comfortable. The tech can come later. The platform, you can decide, okay, I'm going to do this on YouTube versus Instagram now. So I started on Periscope, moved over to YouTube. That's, it's just getting comfortable, like Alistair saying, getting the reps in and just getting comfortable with pressing record or pressing live and then just talking to the camera. That's the confidence move.
Salma, I didn't ask you beforehand. Are you okay to go for another 5 minutes over the top of the hour? Or do you need to go?
Yeah, I'm okay with 5 minutes.
Okay, cool. So I do have a couple of last questions that I want to ask you.
Sure.
If you were to give somebody one tip on building authority, what would be the number one tip that you would give somebody who wants to build their authority?
Let me think. Just one tip, because there's so many.
I'll let you give one tip and a bonus.
One tip on building authority. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm going to give a tip on building authority really fast. Okay. That's going to be, if I have to just do one tip, it's going to be how to build authority really, really fast. And one of the really, really fast ways to build authority is borrowed authority. Let me explain. So, borrowed authority is when you kind of piggyback on somebody or something that already has authority in your audience's eyes. It could be a person, it could be a website, it could be a book, it could be a software, it could be an app that has authority already. And you build your perspective on how whatever that person is saying or what that app is doing already, and you offer your perspective on that. So one of the earliest ways that I built authority was this video that I did on how to use TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy already had authority. There were already lots of customers using it, and it was, one of the premier tools for YouTube. And I did this video, which was just a tutorial on how I personally like to use this product. And what happened with that video was brand deals, affiliate sales, immediate authority as people seeing me as a YouTube educator because I'm teaching how to use a YouTube tool. So, borrowed authority, again, it could be person, website, book, resources, apps. If there's something in your area that already has authority, add your perspective to that. That's an immediate authority builder. That's going to be my one tip.
Awesome. I love that. And as a podcaster and somebody who talks to people about using podcasting, this is something that I do myself. So, for example, I have you here talking, and so now your audience are going to see me as more of an authority because I'm speaking with you. I've had Alan Weiss on the show, David C. Baker, Mark Schaefer,
Good people.
Marcus Sheridan. I've had all of these very, very well-known experts in their field.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting thing with when you interview those people and talk with those people is you're elevated by the audience to be at the level that they are, even if you are not. And I find this fascinating how the psychology of this works. But because you are talking to these people and you're
Yeah.
seen to be talking, it does increase and elevate your authority. So in the same way that you just talked about. So
Yeah,
100%.
authority by association.
Yeah, yeah, love it. That's a great answer. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're nearly at time, so I'm just going to ask you two very quick final questions. Is there a business book or resource that's been important for you, or that you would recommend to people?
I'm gonna grab something. This one. If you're in marketing, you need to understand psychology. And then this is the book that helps me understand psychology. It's called Influence by Robert Cialdini. Cialdini. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but that's the book. That's my very short answer. Do I need to say more on this? Okay, I think we're still live, but Alastair might be having some issues, so I will say a little bit more on this. Do you still want me to?
I forgot to hit that button that we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was
no,
just
that I figured. I was like, okay, the counter is still on. We're still live. That means
we are still live. Yeah,
check
and
on your
this
end.
this is the joys, and I'm not going to edit this, so all of our podcast listeners are going to get this, and that's why. So we talked beforehand
You'll
about
probably see like a huge retention bump on that end. We're like, what happened?
we talked beforehand because this is the first time that I'm actually taking myself out of the picture and spotlighting the guest. But actually, when you take yourself out of the picture, it also mutes you. So I forgot that I was on mute when I did it that way because it doesn't show. So interesting. So that is probably my favorite book in terms of marketing and psychology. I think it's a super, super important
If you're in
book.
marketing,
Yeah.
you have to study psychology.
Yeah.
It's like there, you can't do marketing without psychology. Can do.
Yeah, and so that's the book that popularized the ideas of reciprocity and scarcity and
Yeah.
all of the other really crucial marketing principles. So
Absolutely.
Cialdini, yeah, super great book. And then the final question for you is: do you read fiction? Is there anything that you love and recommend?
I haven't read fiction in a long time because I realized that. Okay, but if I were to recommend, no, I don't think I could recommend any fiction right now. I don't have any really recent examples.
Okay, do you watch TV and movies?
Yes.
Or yeah, what
Yeah.
are you into?
The Crown on Netflix, which is coming back. What else? guilty pleasures like selling sunset, real estate stuff, which is totally trash TV. Which when I am absolutely done with work and I do not want to think about it for another second. Yeah. Then just regular movies and stuff, whatever's latest coming out,
Hmm.
Oppenheimer, Barbie, all that stuff, which, which I guess everyone's watching.
Yeah, yeah. And I went to Barbie, and I have to say it was a lot deeper than I was expecting.
It was like a little bit, and now I'm aiming to watch the new Beckham documentary. That's next on my watch
Okay,
list.
cool. Yeah. Well, I also think so. I do the equivalent. I don't watch so much trash TV, but I do read a lot of kind of trash science fiction and fantasy
Ooh,
books.
yeah, you got
And
to have that guilty pleasure side a
I
little
think you
bit.
do. I
Yeah, you
think there's
do.
something like I use a lot of my brain cycles on work, so I don't want to have to use them when I'm not working. So I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that's exactly the function it does for me. It's like I need to shut my brain off, but I can't.
Mhm.
So something else has to come in and occupy that for a little while, so I can stop thinking about work. That's
Yeah.
just my type A weird personality, but okay.
Salma, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. So YouTube would be the first place. So it's youtube.com// Salma Jafri, my name. So I'm at Salma Jafri everywhere: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then my website. And then the playbook that we were talking about downloading for the GCFA framework and also for thinking through the authority topics that you want to create is at salmajafri.com/ playbook. That's my YouTube playbook that takes you all the way from thinking about what topics to create videos on to having a monetization strategy with the first 10 videos on your YouTube channel. So it's really about building authority really, really fast and in a very strategic and intentional manner.
Awesome. I love it. Salma, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and being on the live stream
Thank
with me
you.
today.
Thank you for having me, Alastair. And I love the fact that you were experimenting, doing the things, walking the talk. You're for real. I love that. Thanks.
Awesome.